Competence alone does not make people trust you. It makes them watch you. There is a difference. The person in the room who never fumbles, never admits doubt, never spills their coffee, that person is respected, yes. But they are also kept at a careful distance. Something about their polish signals, I am not safe to be imperfect around. The counterintuitive truth the research reveals is that a single, well-timed mistake can do more for how people feel about you than 100 flawless performances. You have probably known someone like this. They are brilliant at their job. They never seem to doubt themselves in public. Every presentation is polished. Every answer is ready. And yet, somehow, the more you see of their competence, the less you feel you actually know them. There is an invisible wall around people who perform flawlessly. It is not dislike, it is something more like awe without warmth. You admire them the way you admire a statue, but you would never call them at midnight. This is the strange cost of relentless competence. It signals a kind of separateness, and our nervous systems, tuned over long periods of evolution to detect who is safe to be vulnerable with, quietly register. This person has no room for my mess. What this episode is about is the mechanism underneath that feeling. There is a small, precise psychological finding that reframes what it means to seem capable. Understanding it will not make you perform worse. It will make the competence you already have land differently in the people around you. In 1966, a social psychologist named Elliot Aronson ran a study that produced one of the most quietly startling results in the literature on likability. Participants listened to recordings of people taking a quiz. Some quiz takers answered almost everything correctly, others performed more modestly. Then, in some recordings, a small accident was added. The quiz taker spilled a cup of coffee, and you could hear them reacting to it on the tape. Aronson's question was this: does a small human blunder change how much you like someone? And does it change liking differently depending on how competent that person already seems? The results were precise and a little counterintuitive. The highly competent person who spilled the coffee was rated as significantly more likable than the highly competent person who did not spill it. But the person who had already performed only modestly was rated as less likable after the spill, not more. The blunder hurt them. Aronson called this the Pratfall Effect. The mechanism he proposed goes something like this: competence establishes that a person has genuine value. Once that foundation is there, a moment of fallibility functions as a signal of humanity. It closes the distance. It says quietly, I too am not beyond error. But without that foundation, the same mistake reads only as further evidence of unreliability. What surprises me most about this finding is how specific it is. The mistake is not universally softening. It is only softening when proven capability is already in place. This is not simply about liking imperfect people more. There is a deeper pattern underneath the Pratfall Effect, one that connects to how trust actually forms in the human nervous system. Daniel Kahneman, in Thinking Fast and Slow, describes how quickly and automatically we build impressions of other people. Before we have fully assessed someone's competence, we have already decided whether they feel safe. Warmth is evaluated faster than skill, but warmth without skill reads as pleasant and ineffective. Skill without warmth reads as impressive and cold. The moment of fallibility is, in a sense, a warmth signal arriving after the competence signal has already been received. That sequencing matters. It tells the watching brain, this person is capable and also human, both things at once. Bessel van der Kolk, writing in The Body Keeps the Score, observed from clinical work that human beings are fundamentally tuned to detect signs of safety in one another. One of the clearest safety signals is the willingness to be seen in an imperfect state. It communicates, beneath language, that this person does not require me to perform. That signal is profoundly relaxing. And we tend to move toward people who relax us. There is also something worth naming about what sustained perfection does to the people nearby. Research on social comparison consistently finds that being around someone who appears never to struggle does not inspire, it deflates. The gap feels too wide. The pratfall briefly closes that gap. It does not eliminate admiration, it humanizes it. But here is the part that took me the longest to accept. Knowing about the pratfall effect does not mean performing clumsiness. A manufactured vulnerability is immediately legible as performance. People can sense the calculation. What the research is pointing to is something more subtle, the willingness to let real moments of uncertainty remain visible rather than reflexively smoothing them over. This looks like saying, in a meeting, "I actually do not know the answer to that, let me find out." It looks like laughing genuinely when you mispronounce a word. It looks like admitting that a project did not go the way you intended before anyone else has to say it. These are not strategic displays of weakness. They are simply the choice not to perform in vulnerability when you do not feel it. James Pennebaker, in his decades of research on self-disclosure, found that articulating difficulty, naming it, speaking it to another person, changes how both people relate to the experience. The speaker integrates it. The listener extends trust. The exchange itself becomes a kind of relational glue. What Aronson's original finding suggests, and what all of this points toward, is a reframe worth sitting with. Your flaws are not the opposite of your credibility. In the right context, after genuine competence has already been established, they are part of what makes your competence believable. A person who is never wrong is also a person who is never quite real. And it is very hard to trust someone who does not seem real. If findings like this, ones that quietly reframe how the mind actually works in relationship, are useful to you, this channel is built around exactly that kind of inquiry. Subscribe, and we will keep building a more honest map of the way we relate to each other.